NASCAR's next-gen car is back on track today. John Hunter Nemechek makes a shocking announcement, and Colleague Racing announces their new full-time Xfinity Series driver. How's it going, everyone? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. Very full show today to start off the week. I hope everyone is having a fantastic Monday. We've got silly season to talk about. We're going to talk about John Hunter Nemechek and Front Row Motorsports announcement today. We're going to talk about Colleague Racing and their new driver for next season. We're also going to talk about a recent report that shows just how much money NASCAR tracks lost in 2020 due to the pandemic and limited ticket sales. We'll talk about how that may affect 2021 plans. But before we get to all that, I want to start by talking about the next gen car. As of the time I'm filming this episode, usually I film these a couple hours before they're actually uploaded. It takes a while to edit out all of my mistakes. But as of the time I'm filming this, at least, NASCAR currently has 2 editions of their next gen car on track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, testing the Roval configuration. Per reports, the NASCAR built next gen prototype that we've seen tested at a multitude of tracks over the last year or so is testing today alongside another next gen car that was actually built by Jim France owned Action Express Racing. That's an IMSA sports car team. They built their own version of the next gen car and actually tested at Homestead, Miami over the summer, I believe. Those 2 cars are making mostly single car runs today, although according to reports later this afternoon, they're expected to both be on the track at the same time. It's a road course. They're probably not going to be slicing and dicing trying to race each other or anything like that, but that might be interesting. It'll be the first time that 2 next gen cars have been on the track at the same time. Driving these test cars today are a couple veterans, a couple former champions. Martin Truex Jr. and Kurt Busch are testing the next gen car today. I'm extremely excited about that because if you recall a video I did several months ago, the last time the next gen car was tested, I said, hey, when we get back to testing the next gen car, I want to see some veterans. I want to see some champions get behind the wheel and share their thoughts on how the car handles, how the steering works, all that type of stuff. I want to hear what the veterans, what guys who've been around a while, who've won a lot, I want to hear what they think of the next gen car's progress, because up until today, the most experienced driver who tested the next gen car was Joey Logano, and I think Joey Logano is a great driver. Obviously, he's been around for 10, 11 years in the Cup Series, won a championship, he's great. But besides Logano, had been like William Byron, Eric Jones, Austin Dillon. No disrespect to these guys, but they're younger, they haven't raced as long, they don't have the same resume that guys like Truex or Kurt Busch have, so I'm really excited that at long last NASCAR was able to get some veteran drivers, some championship drivers behind the wheel. They're testing the road course, the Roval configuration today. Tomorrow, they will test the oval, the 1.5 mile version of Charlotte Motor Speedway. It'll still be Kurt and Martin Truex. I'll do a video either tomorrow or Wednesday where we'll talk all about the 2 next gen car tests. We'll hear what the drivers had to say. We'll look at footage. We'll look at what the cars look like and how they may have changed since the summer. We'll look at all of that later this week. But for now, here's a clip of the car on track. You can hear the growl of the engine. This was from Christian Espinosa, who literally lives at the track. He has the best seat in the house. You can definitely tell the tone is different. It has a little more of a snarl to it, a little deeper tone, at least in my opinion, than what the current NASCAR Cup cars sound like. I'm mixed. I mean, I like the sound. It's not the same as like 2003, 2004 NASCAR when I feel like the engines were a little higher pitched. Those engines sounded really cool, especially all in a pack. We haven't heard what the next gen engines sound like in a pack, or, again, we haven't had more than 1 car on track until today, so it's hard to really judge what the sound's really gonna sound like. And obviously the sound of the engine is not the most important thing or anything like that, but it matters. It's something to note. Anyway, I think that sounds cool. Definitely got a kind of a throaty rah. That was terrible. A sound of it. That's my next gen car impression. What am I doing? Anyway, we'll talk about the next gen car more later this week. For now, let's jump into some silly season conversation. I thought we were done with, for the most part, with Cup Series silly season stuff. Most all of the major dominoes have fallen into place. We're still waiting to find out like where Corey LaJoie is going to end up. We're still trying to wait and find out if Ty Dillon's going to stay Cup. There's a few questions still out there, but the big questions have, for the most part, been answered. Until today. A brand new question has arrived. Out of nowhere today, Front Row Motorsports announced that John Hunter Nemechek will not drive for the team in 2021. In a statement from team owner Bob Jenkins, he says, "We want to thank John Hunter for being a part of Front Row Motorsports and beginning his NASCAR Cup Series career with us. He certainly helped elevate our performance this past season and brought added value to our number 38 team. We wish him the best in the next phase of his career and he will always be a friend of ours." John Hunter Nemechek then released a statement of his own. "I'm so thankful for the chance that Bob Jenkins, Jerry Freed, employees and all of our partners took on myself this past season. I would like to thank every employee for the opportunity and the hard work that they put into myself and the number 38 team at Front Row. I'm grateful for my time, relationships, and all the knowledge I have gained. I appreciate the patience of our fans with future plans to be announced at a later date. Again, this sort of came out of left field. John Hunter Nemechek was a rookie in the NASCAR Cup Series this season, and while he didn't end the season particularly strong, I pointed this out in one of my videos when I graded every driver's season, Nemechek only had one top 10 in the last 22 races of the season, but if we look at his season as a whole, with all of the obstacles in his way, no practice, no qualifying, for a rookie, that's difficult. Nemechek finished top 10 at Darlington early in the year. He had top 15s at Bristol, Charlotte. He had 2 top 10s at Talladega this year. He finished 27th in the points. If we compare that to all of the Front Row cars in 2019, Matt Tifft was 31st, David Reagan was 30th, and Michael McDowell was 27th last year. So John Hunter Nemechek as a rookie this season matched Michael McDowell's points finish from last year, a veteran driver. It's not like John Hunter Nemechek had a bad season. In fact, I would say John Hunter Nemechek slightly exceeded expectations this year, even though the second half of the season was not particularly special. But I think most people expected John Hunter Nemechek to return to Front Row next year and see what they could do. Clearly, the team, not just Nemechek, but even Michael McDowell, made progress this year. They improved statistically in almost every major category this year compared to last year. So shocked to hear Nemechek is not coming back, and even more shocked to hear from all the reports that apparently John Hunter Nemechek is the one who chose to walk away from Front Row Motorsports. Apparently it was John Hunter Nemechek who went to the team and said, I will not be coming back in 2021. I heard some reports that he basically turned down the contract extension that they offered him. Not sure exactly how it played out, but it does in fact sound like it was not a Front Row decision to let John Hunter go. It was John Hunter Nemechek deciding that he felt he could land a better opportunity elsewhere. And all due respect to John Hunter Nemechek, I'm not sure what plans he may have in store. He must know something we don't know, because looking around, if we just look at the NASCAR Cup Series, there doesn't appear to be much available. Definitely nothing that I would say is clearly better than the 38 car. Nemechek does say in his statement that he will announce his future plans at a later date. I think it's safe to assume he's planning to stay in NASCAR and he'd like to stay racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. Maybe he's got some trick up his sleeve. Maybe there's some deal behind the scenes that we have not heard about that is set to be announced sometime soon. I mean, there are some teams out there that have not yet announced drivers, but I wouldn't say any of those teams are particularly competitive, or at least not teams that are expected to be competitive next season. So wish the best for John Hunter Nemechek and Front Row Motorsports. We now don't know who's going to go to the 38 car. That could be open to someone we haven't talked about. That might be considered an upgrade to some drivers that are still technically on the market at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Front Row Motorsports downsized from a 3-car team to a 2-car team this year. I really hope they don't end up as a single-car team next year with Nemechek leaving. You just never know. This news surprised me. We'll see where it goes. Just when I thought NASCAR Cup Series silly season was starting to simmer down, boom, the 38 car is wide open potentially. We'll see what happens. More silly season news today. Let's move to the NASCAR Xfinity Series side of things. With Ross Chastain set to run full-time for Chip Ganassi in the Cup Series next season, Kaulig Racing was looking for a new driver of the number 10 car. Well, today they made the announcement. Jeb Burton will drive the number 10 car full-time in 2021. Son of Ward Burton, Jeb Burton drove for Junior Motorsports part-time this year in the number 8 car. And actually, if we look, Jeb Burton has raced part-time in trucks, part-time in Xfinity for about the last 5 or 6 years. His last full-time season in any sort of NASCAR series was when he ran full-time trucks in 2013 and 2014, and he actually got a win in 2013. Jeb Burton, Kaulig Racing, posted a really cool video, kind of an emotional video, where they looked like it was sort of like a hidden camera setup for when Chris Rice told Jeb Burton that they were going to put him in the car full-time, and you can see the emotion on Jeb Burton's face getting this kind of opportunity. I mean, that is a really cool moment. I mean, this is a big opportunity for Jeb Burton. Like I said, he's been part-time for years now. He's going full-time racing next year for a team that can win a championship. Justin Haley made it to the championship 4 this year. Ross Chastain, while he didn't make it to the championship 4, was one of the most consistent drivers all season long. And we saw AJ Allmendinger run really well in his part-time schedule with the team. So Jeb Burton is stepping into a true contender in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Nutrien Ag is going to be their main primary sponsor, so they're staying with the team. That's great to hear. At 28 years old, this may be Jeb Burton's final real opportunity to impress NASCAR Cup Series owners and vault himself into maybe a competitive Cup career one day. This is probably the last opportunity. This is also probably the best opportunity he's gotten to this point, so best of luck to Jeb Burton. That video just put a smile on my face. So we'll see 2 Burtons racing full-time Xfinity next year, with Harrison at JGR, rooting for Jeb next year. Now lastly, I saved the bad news for last. I shouldn't have done that. Usually I try to get the bad news out of the way as early as I can and end on a positive note. I messed up today, sorry. So Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal reported earlier today that NASCAR tracks lost an estimated $150 to $175 million in combined ticket revenue this past season. And he writes there, for reference, the tracks earned a combined $193.6 million in 2018. So assuming these tracks combined make close to $200 million annually in ticket revenue, I do not believe this has anything to do with like money they get from the TV contracts, which does make up, I would say, the majority of their revenue each year. Ticket sales are still obviously a massive, massive chunk. So seeing those numbers, being roughly 15 to 20% of what they should be, I mean, that is a huge loss to all the racetracks. And it's not specific, but I believe that covers ISC tracks and SMI tracks, really all tracks that host NASCAR races. Couple quick takeaways. Obviously, this isn't surprising. The vast majority of the races on the 2020 schedule, and I'm talking not just Cup, but Xfinity and Trucks as well, were run without fans in the stands. That's a lot of tickets that were not sold, and many of the races that were able to hold fans were still only able to hold limited capacity. In fact, I think the largest crowd since March this season was like Bristol, maybe Texas had like 25-30,000 fans at those races. So needless to say, none of the races after about March had anywhere close to packed grandstands like you would be used to seeing in NASCAR. So seeing those tremendous losses or seeing all that revenue that did not come in this year from ticket sales, that's not shocking, but it is worth noting those are some pretty big numbers. The fact that the racetracks bring in close to $200 million a year in ticket revenue typically, that's a big number. And it also opens your eyes when you realize that they make just as much, if not more, from the TV contract, contracts that are currently in place. So big money. There's still big money in NASCAR. That's sort of my takeaway. But what happens next? Because while Steve Phelps said during his sort of state of the sport press conference at Phoenix a couple weeks ago, he said that NASCAR is in position to withstand, another year of the pandemic if need be. It would be suboptimal, obviously, and Phelps even said in that press conference that the intent is for NASCAR to have fans back at the track this coming season. At what capacity? There's just no way to know at this point. No sports league knows exactly how they're going to handle 2021 at this point. But Phelps said it last week, the hallmark of NASCAR is its accessibility. It's one of the best fan experiences you can have at any major sport in this country, maybe in the world. And so NASCAR is going to push to have fans back in the stands as quickly, as safely, and in as big of numbers as they possibly can next season. Because while NASCAR may be in an okay enough position to withstand another year of the pandemic, if worse comes to worse, I don't know if we can say the same about all the tracks, at least not on an individual level. I mean, we've already seen Chicagoland and Iowa, and Kentucky even for that matter, their futures look not so great at the moment. Not all of that was due to the pandemic, obviously, but if fans can't attend these races, if the tracks continue to see a huge chunk of their revenue basically cut off, I don't know, we might get some more bad news at some point next season. But it's worth noting that NASCAR fully intends on bringing fans back in large numbers next season. When exactly and at what capacity, how it's going to be phased in, nobody knows for sure just yet, but NASCAR understands that they need to get fans back in the stands. The tracks obviously want fans back in the stands, so hopefully those revenue numbers look a little closer to normal in 2021, but all we can really do is wait and see what happens, honestly. But definitely that's a pretty big drop. When the tracks combined usually make close to 200 million, and this last year they made roughly 30 or 40 million, it sounds like. That's an 80% decrease. That's pretty significant. Anyway, that's all I've got for today's episode. We covered a wide variety of subjects. We'll have plenty more to talk about later this week. Of course, we'll talk about the next gen car. ARCA Menards East Series champion and Bristol Truck Series winner this past year, Sam Mayer, will join the show as well later this week. So I look forward to talking to one of NASCAR's most promising up-and-coming young stars. And we've got other things in the works as well. The off-season is here, but Out of the Groove is not slowing down at all. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you don't miss any of those future videos. As always, a huge thank you to my fantastic Patreon supporters. I couldn't do the show without your tremendous support, so I really appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout the off season. More to come, like I said. Thank you all for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday.